off of me. I'm brushing on my body, trying to get these hoes up off of me. Get off.
Let me kill myself. What is this? The Mexican border? This is the Mexican border arcade. Never played it before. No, I love the Lord and Savior. It's just... I just sometimes get annoyed about the system. It looks like on YouTube I've seen them walk around the Mexico City and all that. I think this is where we are. We're in Mexico City. White House, Washington. What's this? The embassy? I think this may be some sort of embassy. It's at the right at the border of Mexico and Texas. Weed buyer. Judith, I don't know if she plays these games. I don't think Judith plays games.
Get out. Get out.
I buy a gun off you? That was baloney. There's even meth cooks at the Mexican border. It's such a drug that even people that are at the Mexican border are doing this. VIP room. Well, I guess some people have money and they need it. A lot of casinos. I think here you can choose your thing. Yeah, I didn't know that God is a part of everything that's living and it's all in real time. Now I've gotten to the point where I kind of understand it, that God is all in real time. Ammo, pistol ammo, 357, entities, ammo, printer rack, skills. My firearms are doing good. Now I safely store. Sorry, now I safely store my firearms in my range bag. I have a range bag, and then also they go in their own case. Why did I get killed again? Yeah, I never used to be a firearm owner here in Canada. I only had a pellet gun for I've been here for over 20 years. I was born here. But then I got my firearms, what was it? Well, it's almost going on a year now that I've had my, single action. And then I've only had the double action for about a week now. And the double action really is a big step up. As many they used to say that way back. You had the single action where you had to pull back the hammer and then fire the triggers. And then you had the double action with. When I was a kid, they weren't sure if they were going to allow the double actions in Canada to be without a license.
Stand right the fuck here.
But I was one of the test subjects in Canada that showed that we carried the maturity to be able to possess a double action. And I remember that in real time. You know, they record everything under the census and everything. And something to do with God and all that. So that's all I understand. And I was just born here, and you know. But no, I do got my firearms. I don't even have a firearm in the game. I'm trying to find one in the game. But no, there were a long time I didn't even play. I mean, I didn't even have any firearms in real life. But a lot of people on Gmod are from the U.S., and of course they had their firearms in the U.S. Like Seesaw and a lot of other ones, Keaton and whatnot, and Jekyll, and everybody had their firearms except me. My dad put me in a position where I didn't have firearms for almost 10 years, 10 or 11. I was going through what I used to call the college days. I didn't need really a firearm or anything, I thought. I felt like, hey, I'm doing all right, but I don't need a firearm. And then I started to realize, hey, like, you know, you are starting to have the need to have a firearm or whatever. And the adults told me for years that I needed one, and the videos and the president, and I would ignore the president. I think at the time I said, oh, I'm not going to buy a firearm until Obama finishes his term or whatever. That was my big thing. It was like, no, I'm not going to spend because in Canada to get the firearms that I want or whatever without the light, or yeah, with the antique, it was $5,000 and all that. And I said, I'm not going to spend the $5,000. It's a big purchase. You're supposed to be like mature to the level. So I did a lot of training down in Tennessee, Florida, Ontario. I did a lot of training out in Alberta. And now I got into the position to be able to have it's taken years. I'm almost 30 years old. But I got double action, so no one can, you know, if you just have like a one computer, if you just have like a little computer or something like that, probably, well, no, some people were trying to steal my computer, like my brother and all that, thought he was going to push me around to steal my computer and all that. So that kind of shit can happen. But most people buy a firearm. I know people, they have their firearms, and if their brother wouldn't even think to steal or anything like that, or not like that. It's only in my family. They had it set up for a little while. They thought they were going to push me around and push my money. But that's not how it works. When it's your money, you use it how you want to use it. If it's legally your money, if it's legally somebody else's, not their money, they can't even access the money. So they can talk all they want or whatever, but when it comes to accessing the money, they will not be able to access it. And that's the power, all the power I need. And, or I'm sorry, if that's all that it comes down to is money, and the government agrees. And that's why they said you don't need a license anymore, the RCMP, for the certain guns, antiques, Like my double action antique, it's better than brand new revolvers. If you did your research and you seen it and all that, I would rather have my French moss than I would have one of these other pieces of shit revolvers that you can buy, because the French moss was this once in 300-year World War II gun. They made it during the right before 1945 war. They made it in the 1800s, fresh to go. It's a military gun. It goes bang, 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 bang as fast as you pull the trigger. It's got a hammer on it like no other. I mean, this thing is a monster. I mean, and I know how to use it. You know why? Because I'm French. And we moved to Canada and we became French Canadians. And I'm part of the same family as Justin. And us French Canadians, some of them have their RPALs and some of them have their PALs, but I didn't. And that's why I got my French moss. But the French moss is not anything to be taken lightly. I mean, even a 223 rifle will not be able to keep up with the 45 caliber French moss. This is a gigantic revolver of the 45th caliber. It has gigantic mechanisms in it that were made for the military. Ones that have lasted 200 years and go beyond. I can see this revolver lasting with me all the way up, and then it eventually may go to somebody else. It's such a high quality revolver. But I won't give it up. I bought the revolver to be able to use the revolver. That is the right. I wouldn't have bought a gun not to use it. The whole point is, if you think you're going to put my blood on this concrete, then I can use my revolver. Bang, 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 bang. So there were people in Canada that thought they were going to be able to put, because I've been over to the United States and they haven't, and blah, blah, blah. They thought they were going to be able to put my blood on the concrete. But the government of Canada said, no, 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 because there's this StacksAMilli, and then there's this other gun post, and there's lots of other families and all that. Certain ones, if they have $3,000, they can buy it, because these people that want to put your blood on the concrete, even the ones that say they're rich, they don't have $3,000 in cash. Like that Thompson guy out in Teeswater, he can't even afford groceries half the time. I mean, go check their repertoire. I'm sure their toilet paper's low, their food in the fridge and the freezer's low, their drugs and their booze, everything's low with them. They got 2 childs and all that, or what?
Yeah.
And I know Phil Thompson does not want to meet the French mob. I know what firearms. I know what firearms Phil has. And they don't want to meet me, and they don't want to meet the French moss again. They loved meeting me at the time, I tell you. They loved meeting me at the time.
Damn. You should shoot people.
But now it's like, I feel bad for Phil, because I told Phil before, I said, if you choke me or whatever, the military's water or whatever, I am gonna defend myself, and then I'm gonna beat it in court. And he said, no, you're not, because blah, blah, blah. And guess what he did? Started choking me or whatever. And I warned him before. I said, if you touch me, I will hurt you somehow or whatever. And then he went above and beyond, and he hurt me or whatever. So this time, I'm telling him, I'm going to fill you up with 45 caliber rounds or whatever if you don't back off or whatever. He hasn't came around ever since, because I really will do it. You know who Phil Thompson is? He's a guy that's never been to the United States. He's a weirdo Canadian, him and his family. And they've been to Venezuela or nothing. And all he kept asking me was, well, what am I supposed to do? Well, what am I supposed to do here? You've been to America, I haven't. And I'm like, buddy. I was just laughing. They were running around. They hadn't seen money in their town in years. Like, their town was so poor, I remember when I came in there, that even $10 cash, and little did they know, I was a lot higher up than they thought when it came to money. Enough so, hey, he's on ODSP, doesn't have the most money or whatever, but I had enough money to be able to do what I did to a grown man named Phil Thompson. And that was spray him directly in the eyes.
So,
I mean, doesn't it feel good to be a 29-year-old kid and be able to know that you're not scared of there's a 55-year-old man that's crazy about you, but you're not scared of him because you know that your new handgun will be able to protect you in the chance that one of these serial rapists, like a Phil Thompson or a Cam Thompson that's out on the run, that I will not be able to be taken advantage of by some rookie police constable that was able to obtain a Service 223 and wants to make it a social media dance out. Like, oh, I got my 223, so I'm a cool person. The government says, no, that doesn't fly. Okay? The government says that, no, the police don't have, like, unlimited power, and nor do the citizens, nor do I, or any other business. It's sort of a, you can't take advantage of me, and I can't take advantage of you. Similar to how the laws are with the tenancy and with the landlord. No, just because you are landlord doesn't mean you can do any advantage taking of your tenant. It's supposed to be a completely equal thing. Now the landlord can have his feelings like, oh, he's like, you can hop in the pool and jump around. The tenant doesn't care. The tenant may feel happy that his landlord is doing some normal things. But what about a weird landlord that breaks into their tenant's apartment and kills them and steals all their stuff? Because I've been hearing about more and more of these guys around. That was it an investment? Some people that they kill their tenants. They thought they were going to be able to get away with these hit businesses or whatever that it was on YouTube some years ago. Oh, these red rooms, these hit businesses, you know, you go to their apartment, they set you up, and they rob you. I guess it's more frequent with certain people's lives, but I got to experience it. Some people, it's a full-time job. They're doing some El Chapo, like a Phil Thompson. And the only person I could say was like a Judith Esposito and Mr. Alden Herrera of Clover Bloom Road in Brandon. They were doing the illegal crimes when it comes to the syndicate. And then there's the Phil Thompson syndicate. And other than that, we have Doug Ford, we got John Corey, we got everybody's good. But who the hell are these two mafiosos being the Spanish ones, and then you got this Phil Thompson with the Cam, and then they got a sex business too, where they're having sex with all types of gangsters out there, with their women, like the Ashley, and then there's the Linda, and then there's the other ones. I mean, they just have this big sex business going on. And the last I checked, prostitution was illegal. And the adults, you know, they want to call themselves legitimate and say that and all that. But you're supposed to make it official if you're an adult. And these adults have not made it official. So under government regulation, wouldn't that not make these adults criminals under the system? And if you can't punish your adults that may be good adults or were good adults, but they violated the law, hey, you got to take them to jail or else the whole system will fail. So that's why nobody likes you if you're one of those people that support the system failure. And that's why your life is failing. So you have a full snowball effect in the economy. But here's the good thing. these folks are getting older. Phil Thompson, I sprayed him right in the eyes with pepper spray. He's not as sharp as he once was. He used to be way sharper. Now he's about the size of a ball bearing, is what my dad used to say. Would be that it would be about the size of a ball bearing, or 6 of them to be. Way more than 6 of them. Because if I have to hit him with 6 of them, I'm going to throw another 6, and then I'm going to reload, and I'm going to have fun with them. Those Thompsons, they just were something. They eat a lot of cheese, those Thompsons. They're just like that, the Thompsons. They run around and shoot people with their 223s. Say goodbye to how much respect or how much power the police once had, because it comes down to a vote, a unanimous vote. If the police can't just go in at force or nothing, there has to be a vote of multiple people. So if not every police officer agrees with a certain person that's screwing it all up for everyone's reputation,
Again, just call Sentinel jail.
then they may turn on that person that came up with the initial robbery plan, which would be considered illegal under law. So then they have to deal with their own officer and whoever that was. Well, what I learned is if you keep moving or whatever. See, Phil Thompson taught me, like, when Phil bodies somebody, he's right there and he's bodying. So that was the first time I ever seen bodies or whatever. Because I was always the type of boss, like, hey, I'm going to just go over to this other city and I'm going to laugh at you when some fucking nigger shoots you about fucking 12 times in the fucking head and leaves you, and I've never seen it or whatever type of boss. I never had to touch nothing. I never had to see nothing. He never had to go nowhere. He was just always this rich boss kid. He never even touched dope. He never fucked prostitutes. He never went to jail. He never did anything like that.
Fuck you, bitch.
It wasn't until I met the Phil Thompson, and it was always a thing with Tom, that if there was a guy like that, he would see his brains, because that was a bad man here in Canada. It wasn't a good man here in Canada, because Tom was the good man here in Canada. It wasn't fucking Phil Thompson was not a good man here in Canada. That's all I know, is that my record, God knows, is impeccable here in Canada. And we all know that Phil's record when it comes to crime, because it's gone past that. It's not who's getting away with it. It's now everybody knows. We're just tagging on what's the next crime Phil's committed. The police are on to him like no tomorrow. They're going to get so sick of him, they're going to go in his house and shoot him in the head like Osama bin Laden. I promise you, they're going to go right in your houses, and they're going to shoot you right in the forehead like Osama bin Laden. Mark my words, Cameron Thompson. Because guess what I got, Cameron? Something that's way more expensive than what you got. Guess what? You can't hit me with a rifle, Thompson. I'm in a fucking $7 million fucking building, you stupid fuck. And if you do fire at the building, because you won't be able to hit me in it, because it's all fucking brick and concrete. If you do hit, I'll call the Saugatuck Shores police, and you can have a shootout with them, because I won't be anywhere that you can touch me. You understand it now? He's way up in a $7 million building. Police, they thought they were tough with their $500 pistols, until you start treating them like shit in a $7 million building. And that's what you have to do. If you didn't know, if you work with them, it's almost like you're employing them to put yourself in jail. They're supposed to be your worst enemy. Until they are so scared of you, they will not even fuck with you anymore. And I guess that's what Phil had to do to them. Phil shot one OPP bitch right in the neck. I had never seen anything in my life. She pulled up right to his house. I'm just this tenant kid, a couple grand in my pocket. I'm sitting down or whatever. But even 5,000 in my account or something at the time was like life and death with these people. And damn right it was. Damn right it was. Because, dude, $5,000 ain't that much to me or whatever. So I was like, okay, we're going to play with this 5,000. So all I did was just like play with these idiots or whatever. That's when I learned that everybody's on this little social ODSP and all that or whatever. I said, oh, it's like I said, I told my boss over in Chicago, I said, don't give me any more money. Keep it down there. I said, we're splitting up. I said, I'm just going completely independent or whatever. And they said, you know what, Tom, we're not giving you no more money at all either. They said, you know what, you need, yeah, and that's how it went. They said, you better start hurry up and paying his ODSP. And I've been getting ODSP ever since, and everybody's happy. But on top of ODSP, you get 10,000 in gifts. There's a lot of exceptions with the ODSP, especially for my, especially in the modern time that we live and everything. In the service record, I have a military service record in the United States and Canada, which a lot of people don't have. Is a private agent military service record of Thomas Perron-slote. There's even real Marines and real U.S. Army that could testify of my record, my service record. So I had a good service record. The boys knew that. They came and picked me up in a really nice. It was a $65,000 police-equipped Tahoe. And I sat right in the middle seat, and they drove me right. And as soon as I got to the jail, they made sure I had hot Timmies, I had Tim Hortons subs, and I had coffee, water, and all that. And then they said, "Oh, it's going to be a self-defense, we're thinking," and all that, and just hold on out for about a month. And then there was, and then you main jail area, and I met some of them, and I met some of your lifer people or whatever, and I realized that, hey, this is jail, and I knew I was going to beat my case no matter what. I mean, there's just when somebody attacks you, you have to be able to push them off you or whatever, and that's all I did was push them off of me. And then I learned that oh no, it's much bigger than pushing off of somebody. You're supposed to be a firearm owner here in Canada. You became super famous. The girls and the men, they just can't believe how famous he is, type of thing or whatever. They said, and then Barack Obama and Donald Trump and Joe Biden, everybody got on the phone, and they said, yeah, he needs a firearm and all that. So that's where he is now. He's at the point, well, a lot of people, they already been at 10 or 20 years ago. And that's the point I'm at now. I'm restarting my life, from when I was a kid. And then when I lost my stuff, and now it's time to be a man. And that's why they've equipped me with a French Moss. That's a military firearm from the French military, the same ones that went to war and all that, and there's a war going on again or whatever. But as everyone knows, we're more than safe here in Canada. I feel like we're extremely safe here in Canada. Now, some other people try to make it unsafe for people. We know who those people are. And you want to be extremely scared of those.
I have to run up on and off in a minute.
Yeah, and some people are just playing the game and all that. You can play the game any way you want or whatever. But will it be me? No. That was always my theory with it. I'm not hating on any other players or whatever in the game. You know, it's the game. Don't hate the players, hate the game or whatever. But also don't hate the game, hate the players or whatever. I guess I don't know. I keep wiping my eyes with jalapenos. I was eating jalapenos earlier and they got on my fingers. I need a gun, but I can't get one. It's a lot harder than you think to get a gun. Even in the United States or whatever, like I would be able to buy a gun, but like when you look at it, it's like damn, 900 US dollars or whatever if you want one of those bullpups or whatever. But those bullpups are like, yeah, exactly. I have to stay in Canada because I'm now part of the Canadian government or whatever. But if you didn't know, I have a lot of friends down in the US that wouldn't be able to believe, they wouldn't be able to believe that I'm official and all that. Yeah, he's the fish, and that's the whole point of it and all that. He's considered like a officer almost in his. Well, originally it was supposed to be if I could testify in court and all that. Like I was always supposed to be one of those guys, and all that. But you know, there's a lot of jealousy when it comes to that. I learned you could be a good kid with all the money with your dad, and you're eating 3 meals a day and all that. But then other people try to screw it up for you. They try to set you up on charges. They try to get you hurt. They try to get you to act out and all that so that you can't go to. But then if you're somebody like me or whatever, you'll learn your lessons. I mean, dude, it doesn't matter. But here's the facts. He's learned a lot of stuff. And I haven't ruined my thing that much either. So, like, I can own a gun and all that. And some people can't own guns. I remember meeting and I even listened to convicted felon music. That's the funny thing. He listens to these convicted felon musics and all that, and I knew that was going to be an issue because I had a hard life. Like I was poor, and I wasn't a convicted felon, but I related to the struggle of the super poor convicted felon ones. But that can be a problem. I've learned when I got to meet the judge and all that there was times like maybe in my life or whatever, there was times, but you got to cut it down and you got to get a whole new regimen. Eventually the music gets old. But I started out with the convicted felon music, and I would listen to it while I was doing like legitimate legal programming and stuff. So that's what people didn't know. I was never actually dope dealing or nothing like that. I'm not a drug dealer in actuality. Never had been. He's a computer programmer that could have been a drug dealer. He could have been a bad guy. I mean, there was bad guys everywhere. I mean, bad women, bad guys. And all I did was be like one of those American kids, that you see dancing and having fun or whatever. And hey, it works out.
Hi, dude, how the fuck do we get out of here? Wait, no. Wait, kill me, yes. Kill me. Kill me.
You don't have any guns?
Kill me now. Kill me.
Kill me. Kill me.
Kind of just like this other server I played before. I thought we were going to be crossing the border, but I guess you can't cross the border. It's kind of like a border town city with a bunch of casinos. I haven't shot my 45 yet. He hasn't even shot his 45 yet. But all I know is, dude, it double actions really, really, really fast. Like, but it doesn't at the same time. But you could output some rounds, believe it or not, like I could. You would have to really hold on to it and bang, 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 bang. You have to be scared to do it. Once you get really, really scared or whatever, and it comes down to a time where you actually have to pull the trigger, it pulls it like, oh, anyways, I do. Bam, 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 right on target or whatever. I don't know about you, homie, because I ain't from your hood, nigga. I'm from a whole different hood, nigga. I'm from Guelph, nigga, and
What I just
Toronto.
do?
I'm from Hillsburg, I'm from Guelph, I'm from Toronto, and I'm from fucking Cambridge, and I'm from fucking that shit or whatever. So no, I'm not from Teeswater or whatever, but I felt like, hey, I seen Teeswater on Kijiji. They're probably a lot like me. And it just so happened that Phil Thompson was my nephew or whatever. Phil Thompson looks just
No,
like...
you don't get it, man. Something's fucking wrong with me. Ooh, that's what I don't know why it's so fucking entertaining.
Hey, you sell guns?
Oh, I'm going to nut.
I'm having a fucking seizure.
Wait, hey, mod. What the fuck? Where the fuck did that nigga just go? Bro, okay, so supposedly you can call people the hard R in here? Well, like, the second you kill them? That's a no-no. That's a no-no. That's so cringe to me, I don't know.
Is this cringe to you?
How my stomach's feeling. Actually getting drug first. That's what Phil and Ashley and all them, they think they're...
Hey, yo, Mr. White, Coco Melon, biatch.
Because, you know, I even talked to my Auntie Lisa out in Alberta and whatever, and she's kind of like them and whatever. And I think a lot of them were watching, they were watching a lot of that El Chapo. They were watching all this Netflix, and Philly's got a little home theater area and all that. And Phil's more of a living room, you know, Phil, he's rich or whatever, I'd say. He's rich. But even though he's rich, he's still the kind of guy that has his home theater in the living room kind of guy. Because I know people that have movie theaters and all. But Phil has a movie theater. Don't get me wrong. Phil's got theater seating. And Phil's got the whole movie theater. But what I thought was cute or whatever about Phil was that he put it in his living room or whatever. Because some people nowadays, they don't have it in their living room nowadays. Their TV and all that. They have it in a separate movie room. So I was hanging out with all these. Well, my old boss, he was a movie room guy. So everybody that I ever hung out with on the internet was millionaires. The only people I could ever get along with was the true multi-millionaires. Now, Phil's not a multi-millionaire like them or whatever, but he could even sense that from me, and that's when I knew they were trying to rob me. It had something to do with Cam, and it had something to do with his other son, Andrew. Because he could smell it. He could smell it, but that's not me. And when Phil moved up the ladder, he would have got a gun stuck in his face or whatever, but everybody was believing Phil because he's very smart at manipulating people when he's doing his robberies. And even if you question Phil, and that's what he did to the judge. He kept threatening the judge, and then the judge is sticking a gun in his face. But what I say is, you know, you can stick a gun in somebody's face once, and you can stick a gun in somebody's face twice. But you know, it really hurts when that trigger gets pulled or whatever and the bullet comes out. And there was somebody else I knew in Canada that was a little bit like Phil. And, well, Phil happens to come from Canada. He's never been to the U.S. It's like, yeah, the bullet really does come out. And just because you're fucking Phil Thompson doesn't mean anything, is what it is his big thing. Trump, make America great again. All the way up to Canada, make America great again, and one way is making fun of Phil. Well, you know, that could get me killed. I'm not Donald Trump. You know, I was undocumented partially when I was in, they said, but I wasn't. He was documented. I was a documented immigrant when I went to the U.S. But how I seen it is U.S. and Canada, it all should have been one entire entity. But President Obama did a good job on separating the two. And then Joe Biden brought it back when he was talking about the NORAD, the North American Trade Agreement and all that. So Obama, he was a real hater on, because during Donald's time, they used to come up to Canada. They would go in the cabins and have some hot cocoa and go skiing and all that. That was a big thing. They used to go skiing and all that. Trump Pence. I remember the Pence with the fly. You must have seen it. Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. Do I got a gun? No, he doesn't. I like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I like him a lot more than Donald Trump and everything. I remember when Donald was in office, as much as I love Donald, as much as I love the guy Donald, I just couldn't stand the whole family getting on the camera and kind of not pooping on everyone, but it's this weird, it's just, with Joe Biden and Kamala, it feels like it's more of an equal government. The Donald thing was not a government; it was more of a mafioso. You had all types of prostitutes, and you had hitmen, like these guys, mafia guys. It was a lot of mafia guys. With Joe Biden and Kamala, it's almost like it's like the universities. It's back to the universities and all that, and not murder and all that. Because I don't know what the hell it was getting bad out there. But Donald was he was law enforcement though. That Donald, he came in, he cleaned the streets right up, and then they're living it like it always was supposed to be, or whatever. And that's what it came out to be. Here's Joe. They got him in the game. There's Don. And there's the National Guard. And not even I am above the National Guard. And I used to love the National Guard, and I still do. You would see them all the time or whatever. Not all the time. Very rarely. Sometimes. There's the National Guard. I got to meet some of the National Guard people. I always thought I was National Guard, something like that. Real National Guard. I didn't hear much about the National Guard going down to the Florida for the hurricane this time. Or FEMA. We didn't hear much about FEMA. IO. Weed grower, no. El Chapo. Everyone wants, that's a kid thing, I think, for a while. Early 20s. From the age of 16 and probably until the age of 30 around here. big into weed. El Chapo, Mexican drug cartel, Cartel Reaper. And if you're 30 still smoking the weed and all that, you better figure it out. Most guys is becoming like this guy when they hit 30 or whatever when it comes to the weed and shit. But some people aren't. Some people made it. Some people are just a chef, and sometimes they like to have a little herb. There's me, the sewer monster. Here's somebody like the judge. Bill Thompson's more like this, actually. We got to know their family. Cam resembles them. Here's Cam and Andrew again, or whatever. And there's another one of their guys. And there's another one of their guys, because Phil also has terrorists, and real terrorists. Pro Hacker, he's got one of those. He lives in Cam's apartment. He's got Expert Gangsters or whatever. Phil Thompson, Cheese Watcher, PTC, Concrete. He's a gangster 50 Cent. Oh, I want to be the gangster 50 Cent. It looks like you got fire on. Where the hell is my fire? I'm supposed to be gangster 50 Cent? I don't got no gosh dang fires. What the hell is it? This ain't gangster 50 Cent. But where's the gun on this hitman? El Chapo's one. Here's El Chapo. Here's El Chapo. This is wrong. My god dang sewer monster. How do I? Wow. Yeah, he's not a kitty. Supposed to scare people. I'll probably kill someone now with a gun. Oh, I guess I'm like the underground monster. Chef Phil loves pizza. When I met Phil, he hadn't had pizza in over 25 years, was the look on his face. For about 15 years, maybe 30 years, the way they were acting about that pizza shop, it was unfrigging believable. I remember Phil's first order. It was two large pies.
In a gang.
It was all the finger foods menu or whatever, and it wasn't no jealousy. I was a little bit jealous of the finger foods or whatever because I didn't know what sides, because I've had pizza, but I didn't know what sides he went on with them because they got all these different, they got salads, but then they have like, I don't know, but he had all these different sides to go with it over there. It wasn't just the pizza, there was sides. But you could tell in the way that Phil was moving. And you could tell in his eyes and how hungry he was. But then you know what Phil did? He turned around and I went upstairs. He thought I was long gone was his big like joke or whatever. But he knew I was. He knew I had moved down the street, but I think it was the first time he had confirmed that I had moved to a whole different apartment. And guess what? It happened to be the same. I happen to be a partial owner of that pizza shop. If you were looking at the money or whatever, and they were looking at the money. So then that's when they started to attack my position as being the apartment renter. He was like, I don't want to go to get pizza from you if you're renting your apartment to that guy. Because he didn't like me. So I said, you know what, I'm not putting up with it anymore. I said, I just can't pay your rent anymore, Wayne, because I don't feel safe or whatever. Because I was saying, like, and Wayne was, Wayne was going to laugh. Wayne was going to go, ha ha, but then he realized, no, that's our business. So then it was Phil and Wayne, they were secretly being friends to each other. But Wayne and like Phil or whatever, they were the ones really going to war when it came to the dollars or whatever. So I've seen it happen or whatever. I was scared for either Wayne or Phil, whichever guy was going to figure it out first and shoot each other was what I thought was going to happen. But then there was some older ladies, and I guess that's the role of the ladies. The ladies came in. They said, what's the problem? Is it sex? Here, and then, well, it's not sex, they said. And the women are saying, well, if it's not sex, what is it? And then the older lady, she had to say, oh, it's got something to do with how hard you boys are working. Or if you're just talking or whatever the fuck, like, you know what I mean? Like, you boys were just talking in your fucking mouths or whatever. But Phil's position was he ain't a killer. Like, he's not just gonna kill the little kid or whatever, So he was playing that innocent role or whatever, which happened to benefit me or whatever, because I'm like a devil or whatever. I would have just pulled the trigger. But Phil, I never had the trigger at the time. Phil was the man on the trigger. So all I could do was sit there as quiet as a mouse and just pray that Phil was going to continue to be an idiot or whatever when it came to his trigger. And that's my perspective. I was like, I fucking hate these fucking goofs or whatever. I'm like, I don't give a flying fuck, I said, if they pull the trigger. But I said they're not even pulling the trigger. They were all talking all this gay Canadian shit or whatever. It had nothing to do with me. It was like some separate lovemaking with like the Arabic people or some shit that they thought was like a big thing or something like that. And I'm like sitting back with like 25 grand in income and shit. And I'm like, what the fuck are these people smoking? Do they really think that Arabic shit they're trying to run with and all that was something in Canada and all that? And he was like talking about fucking some weird thing that happened out in Edmonton and shit. I'm like, what the fuck are you smoking? They said, we smoke rocks, Stacks. We smoke rocks. They said, what are rocks or whatever. So then they brought me around to all the neighborhoods like Weston Road and all that. Oh, these are what rocks are, and this is how we smoke them. And they said, here, have some free one. I said, I don't smoke rock, but I'll watch you smoke it. And they said, I'm such and such big gang member, and I smoke rocks, and I'm June Esposito probation, and I smoke rocks. And so then I got to see all the, because it was a big thing on the news and all that about Rob Ford and how at first when I was a kid, I thought it was just Rob Ford that was the one. Little did I know, all of Rob Ford's supporters and all that were also smoking rock and all that. So Phil was one of those guys. He was like, yeah, I love patois and all this weird shit I thought or whatever. And next thing you know, he's smoking rocks and all that. Same with Cam Thompson. They were smoking rocks. They were smoking on their own cartridges, the black powder. I mean, they were smoking lead. Lead in the head. But the only person that did get lead in the head or whatever would have been people that Phil Thompson was shooting. He shot this female OPP, and the funny thing is, like, she was hot or whatever, and like the her fellow officers, they started peeing on her and stuff. They didn't even care about her. I seen this all right here in Canada. Like, there's like this OPP police mafia war thing with some of them, and like the police are super jealous of just the citizens, and they're like, believe it or not, like our own brothers and sisters are like sexually jealous of each other and all that. And I always thought people were mature enough to like get that out of them, I used to call it, but I realized that no, that was just me, and I'm like this really high up federal agent or whatever, and there's still like hillbilly people that like kill people for sexual reasons and all that kind of stuff that is illegal in the court of law. So that's when I realized what my position was. I'm like Law and Order SVU and all that, and this is one of my testimonies of one of the days. It had to be probably about August 2017, when maybe even July 2017, when Phil killed a bunch of people in Teeswater, shot them with his PAL revolver, or sorry, not his PAL, with his hunting rifle, his hunting rifle. But then they get sexual about it, and nothing ever happened about that. Phil never got indicted. I mean, that's when I learned all about the indictment process. It's like, you can be one of the guys that'll just turn yourself in or whatever, but I didn't know there's like a certain process to it. You can be a guy that, okay, they can indict you or whatever, For me or whatever, because I'm an innocent person, I can play around with the word indictment, but somebody like a Phil, that's how you know somebody's a really bad criminal. I've been working law enforcement for over 10 years now with the FBI. And if somebody starts going on about indictments and shit and how serious they are and all that, then they must be doing something real bad. That would be a RICO Act indictment or something. So that would give me suspicion under the power of the law to gain wiretapping and all that kind of stuff. So all I have to do as an agent is relay that factual evidence over to the authorities that can then and thus use those powers. And sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. Because then it came down to, okay, Tom, you got all the indictments. I mean, you're the king snitch or whatever. But when it comes down to it, it comes down to your arms, and if somebody walks into your apartment, it's like then you need a firearm. That's where the firearm comes into play. Now we can protect my own body or whatever. Because when it comes down to it, just like that OPP woman, she got shot in the neck because she had this ideology that her fellow officers were going to save her. But no, the factual evidence shows that your fellow officers were peeing on you sexually after you had passed away. So, as a fellow person, when it comes to gun law or whatever and all that, and the self-defense and all that, that shows me that it doesn't come down to your fellow person, and they train that in the military. It comes down to yourself protecting your property and your own self. You can try to trust the police and you can rely on them, but they're not 100% every time. And if you want to be a higher percentile, I still get police protection, but I know that the police aren't going to be able to protect me at any time. When am I going to use the police? Well, say something was happening outside of my apartment, like on the street or something. Like there's a bunch of bad people out on the street. Then I would dial 911 and I would report them to 911 that there is some people doing some things out in the street. But if somebody home invades me, I have the duty to be able to, yeah, that is the law now. As a PAL holder or an antique holder, I have the duty now to be able to defend myself with my firearm. So I don't rely on the police as much, because some people, they think you can just run to your telephone. 911, help me. There's a black guy inside my apartment right now, putting his penile organ in my mouth with a pistol to my head. Because that's what's happening. And there you go. They just shot somebody in the head. And it could have been me, or it could have been anybody here in Canada. It's happened to kids, and it's happened to adults, and whatever. That's my right. And that's the whole right to it, or whatever. Is we've learned, the system's developed. We've learned a lot. It's continuously developing, the government. It doesn't just stay in one place. Like, I always used to be one to say, don't make up the rules during the game or whatever, But with the government, they can make up the rules at any time. And the new rules are exactly what I've been saying is what the new rules are. And that's how I'm governed here in Canada. And there's a lot of people that think they are me. And hey, I have some friends, like I said, that are millionaires, and I think I'm them or whatever. But we're all family. Kind of like the Trump family. There's a Donnie Trump, there's another Trump, there's a such and such Trump. But same with our family, there's me and there's lots of other ones. But I don't even trust my own family. It's been my own family sometimes that you got to watch. But as long as you treat your own family good, I think. There was one time I almost screwed up and said something stupid to my family that probably wouldn't have been good. Maybe eventually my dad will move back to Canada and get on the ODSP. Yeah, I know he's been thinking about it, but he loves America. Hopefully I got this whole video because it's a pretty long video. Oh, no wonder Donald's in it. He's the one that built the wall. They should just go ahead and build another wall up north with Canada and the U.S. That's how we feel. Let's just build another wall right at the Detroit River. And because that's the way they treated me in the U.S. was like that Canada and the U.S. has a wall. And I want to warn our fellow Canadians. They got the power and they're winning. Like, I happen to be related to Donald and he lets me get off with some stuff or whatever. And that's why he's the president, blah, blah, blah. And that's why I'm lying. But there's a whole nother group of them, Donald, and they're around still, and fuck, they're our citizens. And they're getting better. A lot of them are getting much better. I just watched one out in Nashville. The girls out there, they were doing real good. Looked like they were all doing real good. They love that Joe Biden. Is this Bernie Sanders? Enough is enough with Joe. And Donald. Shout out to Lucas Sizemore. My scripts.